It turns out that over the years, Nostradamus' words have constantly been changed and added to. And the very technology which popularized his work added errors. Peter Le Mesurier has made a detailed study of the original quatrains.
It's very difficult to find even 2 copies of a single edition that are exactly the same, because the whole thing was printed by hand. Print fell out of its frames while it was being printed. Adjustments and corrections were made as you were going along. So as a result, quite a lot of words got misprinted. Very often the word de, meaning two, got printed as de apostropheeux, meaning of them, or the other way around. Or dame, meaning lady, got printed as de apostrophe ame, meaning of soul. Then when it came, for example, to unfamiliar words, unfamiliar place names that the printer had never heard of, he just did his best with them, and sometimes they didn't even approximate to what the original was.
Undeterred, Nostradamus' fans maintain some quatrains can be relied upon. Lionel Fanthorpe firmly believes that one verse predicts a famous French war hero.
3 times one who is named de Gaulle will be the leader of France. And if we think of General Charles de Gaulle, a very valiant leader during the Battle of France, and then again he led the Free French against the occupying German forces, and finally there was his famous presidency from 1958 onwards, so that 3 times a leader named de Gaulle will lead France.
But Peter Le Mesurier thinks this is an example of another problem with Nostradamus: mistranslation.
It's quite common among people who don't understand Nostradamus' French to say, well, there must be some deeper meaning. Even people who know French are sufficiently unfamiliar with 16th century French to have to do that, or people who know 16th century French are unfamiliar enough with Nostradamus' way of using 16th century French. It's a counsel of desperation when you don't understand what's there.
He thinks the text really refers back to the ancient Roman Empire.
Verse says, Hercule roi de Rome et Danemark, de Gaulle trois Guillons surnommés. Actually, all he's saying is de Gaulle trois, of the 3 Gauls. Julius Caesar had described Gaul as being divided into 3 parts. So all a translation should say that is, from Rome to Denmark, Hercules shall be surnamed the leader of tripartite Gaul. Now you can read de Gaulle into that if you like, but you're stretching it a bit.
So with all this ambiguity, what does this mean for some of the most famous Nostradamus predictions of all? Are they any more reliable? One of the most famous foretells the rise of Hitler, or so it's said. But how credible is this, since the name in the verse is not Hitler, but Hister?
He's reputed to have thought, or at least pronounced, that a man called Hitler will come popping out of Germany and cause a lot of trouble. In fact, he goes to great lengths to explain that the word he uses is Hister, which in fact is the old Latin name for the lower Danube, so although the words are similar, one cannot get one from another.
Whereupon, of course, the nutters will come back and say, but he was born quite close to the Danube. So you could actually never win with this sort of thing.
But if Nostradamus meant Hitler, then why didn't he just say so? His fans say he had to be deliberately imprecise, and for a very good reason: the Inquisition. And that as a converted Jew, Nostradamus therefore had to be very careful about what he said.
One of his dangers living in the 16th century was that he was under suspicion from the Inquisition, and they were very brutal when they arrested and then executed their victims, and so Nostradamus was trying to cover his tracks.
Nostradamus was only really a minor irritant, if any, to the Inquisition, because they thought he might cross that thin dividing line between what was considered perfectly normal astrology and incredibly dangerous magic. So it was a very thin line. But really, I don't think he was high on their shopping list. I mean, there were plenty of other decent Protestants to get hold of and burn, so why bother with this rather wayward character from Provence who was just claiming to be a bit of a soothsayer?
There probably was no need to turn words like Hitler into a secret code like Hister. There is, though, a more obvious flaw with the famous Nazi prediction.
Best farouche de faim, with the hunger of wild beasts they will cross the rivers. Most of the world will be against Hister. The great man will find himself paraded inside a cage of iron.
The Nazis claimed it predicted their victory. But they actually lost the war. This has proved no obstacle to supporters. They now claim that all along it was meant to predict exactly that.